you to bet on if that is something that you enjoy to do. So, let's review what's going on this weekend. We've got the Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City facing off to see who can come out on top of the AFC and advance to Super Bowl 58. And on the NFC side of things, you have the San Francisco 49ers dueling it out with the Detroit Lions. So, these are the four best teams left in the league. They're competing for a shot at glory to play in a game for a chance to win it all. So, very high stakes football. Only 2 matchups to review, so there's a little bit less for me to suggest. But I took a look at some of the stats and figures, and this is a list of, possibly profitable gambling props you could bet on. Let's go over how I did last week. Last week, I came to you with a collection of 12 props for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, and it was alright. I went 7 of 12. Not as nice as my wildcard weekend slate where I went 13 of 16, but it's still a winning record, so I'll take it. The 5 props that missed, one of them was Isaiah Likely. I had him at over 37.5 yards. He finished with 34, so I feel like it was still a pretty good read, but it just didn't pan through. After that, I had Amon-Ra St. Brown over 92.5 receiving yards. He finished with 77, I believe, and, the volume was there. He finished with 8 catches for 77 yards, but he had a team-high 14 targets, so that's 6 unrealized catches. Had he caught even one more of those balls, I think it was pretty close. All the volume was there for him. He just couldn't convert all 14 of those into playable yards, and, I'm not too upset at it. After that, I had Josh Reynolds over 40.5 receiving yards. I think he finished with like 22. That one, I will admit, was not the best. He did have 8 touchdowns, so maybe if I had gone fantasy points, but I wasn't really considering him a touchdown threat. The read that I had for him just wasn't there. He didn't get too many targets. He was not as much of a factor as I was anticipating, so I'll take the blame on that. And then I had 2 props from the Chiefs games. Number 1 was Patrick Mahomes' rushing yards. I think he needed 28 rushing yards, and he finished with 19. Also not the closest. He picked up a couple on his legs. He rushed it a few times, but just not as much as I thought he would need to. And lastly, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 3.5 receiving yards. I knew he was going to get like 1, maybe 2 catches max, so it was a risky play, and risky it was because the guy finished with -1 yards on the entire game. So the 1 catch that he saw, he just couldn't turn it into positive yardage, and yeah, I'll take that. I knew what I was getting myself into. So 7 of 12, not the best, but we take it on our chins and we move forward. So without further ado, I will get into this week's collection of picks. But before that, let me just check where my roommate is, because shoot. No, okay. It's not that close. I do worry that I'm going to get bombarded. I'm recording in my room, and I don't often have free time in my room, so I need to be quick with this one. I also just finished recording this video, and then I realized that I did not record the audio, so it's just 25 minutes of me going like this silently. And yeah, so now I have to record it again. So I'm pretty familiar with these stats now. I've gotten to know them intimately. So, as I said, the first game that I'm going to be reviewing is the Chiefs and Ravens game. So, in that game, the first guy that I will recommend is none other than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, the star quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. He has been the starting quarterback for the Chiefs for the last 6 years. And in all 6 of those years, he has managed to make the AFC Championship game. This guy is incredible, You can't ever count him out. He's always in this position. He's put this team in a position to get to the Super Bowl every year. And let's look at his track record in these AFC Championship type games. The guy goes absolutely ballistic. In his 5 AFC Championship games, he has 14 passing touchdowns. That is almost 3 passing touchdowns a game. And another thing is he has never thrown for under 2 passing touchdowns in an AFC Championship game. The Chiefs rely on him when it matters most, and he delivers. Now that's something that's going to have to happen again this weekend. They're going against a very, very good Ravens defense who kind of tore C.J. Stroud apart. Now the thing about C.J. Stroud is it's his first year. Patrick Mahomes has more games in the AFC Championship game than Lamar Jackson has playoff games. So, he is no stranger to this moment, and when the team relies on him, he delivers in pretty much any playoff game except for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes has thrown a touchdown. And in each one of these AFC Championship games, he has thrown 2, at least. So Mahomes' line for this game is set at 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think that he hits the over on this because the Ravens, as good as they are, I don't think you're going to beat them on the ground. They are the running team, the running Ravens. It's been the narrative ever since Lamar Jackson took over. They are the ones that are going to control that side of the ball. You're going to have to throw. And in throwing the ball, I think that Mahomes is the best, really. There's no denying it. He is the most talented quarterback in this league, and he is pretty much the face of it. So when the team calls, he will answer, and they're going to have to rely on him to get past this immense Ravens defense. And I think he's going to do everything he can to put them in a winning situation. So regardless of who's ahead or what's happening, I think that Mahomes is going to be throwing passes, and I think that their game plan is going to involve him taking down the Ravens by shredding them. Whether that happens or not, we'll see, but I'd like to believe that he's going to put up at least 2 passing touchdowns in this game. After that, we move on to another Kansas City Chief who is also chasing greatness. I've got Travis Kelce catching over 6 passes in this game. His line is set at 6, and I will admit it is more on the high side. But we have to take a look at his playoff history. He averages 7.9 catches a game in the playoffs, and his line is set at 6. But not only that, Travis Kelce has the opportunity to surpass one of the all-time greats this weekend. Jerry Rice has the all-time receptions record for postseason history. And Travis Kelce is only 7 shy of his record. So with 7 catches in this game, Kelce would be able to tie Jerry Rice for the most catches in postseason history ever. And with 8 catches, he would be able to take that number 1 spot all for himself. Now, word gets out that these players, when these random stats get found out, it is brought to their attention, and whether they admit it or not, I do think that it plays a part in their game planning. And it definitely is going to play a part in the commentating. As soon as Travis Kelce hits that 4th catch, I want to say every catch after that, they're just going to be like, oh, he's so close. Is he going to do it? Are they going to target him? Look out for the Travis Kelce next catch. And it's going to be a huge storyline during the game, I feel like. So with all this attention and things like that, obviously the Ravens are going to try and scheme against it. But it's Mahomes and Kelce. It's like the most productive postseason duo ever. So I think that he is able to capitalize, and he's going to make some history this weekend. And we're going to hear all about it. So I take the over on Travis Kelce, 6 receptions. After that, we've got the Kansas City kicker, Harrison Butker. He has a line set at 6.5 kicking points. Now, I'm not someone who messes with kicking points all that often, unless it's like fantasy football. But I found this one pretty intriguing because Harrison Butker has pretty good history when it comes to 6.5 kicking points. Just to break down what a kicking point is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a point scored in the game directly based on the legs of your kicker. So if you score a field goal, that is 3 kicking points for Harrison Butker. If you score an extra point, that is 1 kicking point for Harrison Butker. And I think you'll be happy to know in Harrison Butker's last 12 playoff games, he has cashed the over on 6.5 kicking points in 10 of these games. And on top of that, in his last 5 playoff games, he has hit this in all 5 of them. So the Ravens defense, it is legit. I don't think that the Chiefs defense is not gonna be able to go down the field and score a touchdown on every drive. They're going to need to utilize Butker and his kicking talent to, surpass this Ravens team. So, whether that's 1, 2, 3, 4 field goals, who knows? But they will rely on him. And I think that based on his track record and based on the Ravens defense, Butker will likely see the over in this game. Now, after that, we're going to transition to the 49ers and Lions game. Another quick check-in on where my roommate is. A little bit closer, but not that close. I think that the first thing I will recommend to you is a Brock Purdy completions line. Now, as I mentioned last week, the Detroit Lions have a very stingy run defense, one of the best in the league. And when I was talking about this, I talked about how Baker Mayfield would likely have to pass more than his usual amount to overcome this, because the Lions secondary, on the other hand, is very soft. You can throw on them all day, but running on them is significantly harder. And that did come true. Baker Mayfield, they did have to throw quite a bit, and so he cashed his over last week, and his over was at like 36.5. Brock Purdy's pass attempts is only set to 30.5. And there are a couple more things that I'd like to bring your attention to. We don't know if the San Francisco 49ers will be operating with or without Deebo Samuel, but in the 3 games this season that Deebo Samuel was not present, Brock Purdy's efficiency in the passing game was notably worse. He threw for some of the most passing attempts in his career in those 3 games. And last week, after Deebo Samuel went down, Brock Purdy set a new career high in passing attempts with 38 against the Packers. Now, I think that this will be a highly competitive game. And Brock Purdy, they're going to have a hard time rushing the ball, but they're going to take what they're being given, and they're going to put they're going to put the ball in Brock Purdy's hands and trust that he can, hit his receivers in stride and things like that. So, you have the decreased efficiency with Deebo Samuel possibly out. You have the career high in passing attempts last week, and you have the Lions defensive front, which is just an absolute unit. They haven't allowed a single running back to clear over 70 rushing yards. So I think that Brock Purdy definitely hits the over on his 30.5 pass attempts. After that, you've got a Prizepicks free square. As I may have mentioned, all of these picks are from Prizepicks. That is the app that I use. And Prizepicks is doing a promotion where you are able to take Christian McCaffrey over 0.5 rushing yards. So that means if CMC is able to rush for even 1 yard this week, then you will win this square. So you can utilize this in a larger bet and just consider it a leg that you don't need to worry about at all. Or if you are someone that likes to gamble without actually having to risk the loss of money, if you like risk-free gambling, you can use this square to your advantage to win some free money. All you have to do is take the CMC bet and pair it with one other thing. Let's say you take Brock Purdy passing attempts. So you'll make 2 slips. The maximum amount of money that you can bet on a free square is $25. So you will make 2 slips of $12.50 each. The first one will be Christian McCaffrey over 0.5 rushing yards, Brock Purdy over 30.5 pass attempts. The second one will also be Christian McCaffrey over 0.5 rushing yards, but the other prop will be Brock Purdy under 30.5 pass attempts. And what is going to happen here is you are playing all of the outcomes. There's only 2 ways that can come. I think that Christian McCaffrey is guaranteed to get at least 1 yard in this game. So it's either Brock Purdy will hit it or he won't, but you're covering both bases with $12.50, and the payout for this bet is 3 times. So one of your 2 $12.50 bets is going to hit and return you $37.50. So you're going to bet $25 into these 2 bets, and you're going to receive $37.5 guaranteed. That means that you are netted a guaranteed profit of $12.50. And I know that's not a ton, but it's guaranteed money. So like gambling without having to risk losing anything, that is a strategy you could utilize for this free CMC prop. But moving forward, the next guy from the 49ers offense that I will recommend to you is George Kittle. George Kittle, last week, I recommended the same thing, and he was able to cash on it. It is the over 21.5 receiving yards in his first 2 catches. And what that means is I'm predicting that in the first 2 catches that George Kittle records in this game, he will have covered at least 22 yards on the field. Whether that be through the air, maybe he catches it 25 yards down the field, or maybe he catches the ball at the 1 yard line and runs to the 15-yard line. I think after 2 catches, George Kittle will be over 21.5 yards. And this is something that I saw last week. I thought it was great value. And you know what he did? He recorded 41 yards in his first 2 catches. He absolutely demolished this line. And the Lions defense, once again, not very good in the passing game. They are one of the worst, especially when it comes to allowing opposing tight ends, catches of over 20 plus yards. So it's possible that Kittle clears this in just his first pass. I don't know. We'll see. But I like it. It was profitable last week, and I think it's going to be profitable once again. So I'm going to run it back with this one. After that, I will move to the Lions side of the ball. And this is yet another bet that I made last week, and it is the Jared Goff over on his 36 pass attempts. So, Goff last week, I saw that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had their stingy run defense, and even though I thought that the Lions would be leading in that game, I had a feeling that they're going to have to throw it quite a bit. That's exactly what happened. He cashed on his over in this. And now, the San Francisco 49ers rush defense, while it's a bit softer, it's still pretty good. It's still solid. But they are more vulnerable in terms of catches allowed. One place where San Francisco does not really excel on the defensive side is they have allowed a lot of receptions, whether that be to running backs or to wide receivers or to tight ends. They allow the catches, they just don't allow a ton of yardage after the catch. So I think that the Lions will find some success in throwing the ball more so than rushing the ball. In addition, it is just my personal hunch that the Lions are going to be behind in this game at some point. Obviously, that's dependent on how stagnant the 49ers offense looks, but I would not be surprised if the 49ers got a lead and the Lions were having to play from behind. And if that's the case, they're going to want to throw the ball because in all likelihood, this is going to be a very close game. It's going to come down to the wire, and timeouts are going to matter. So you're going to rely on stopping the clock with the passing game. You're not going to want to rush it in a close game at the very end. So I think, just based on last week, based on the defense, Jared Goff is likely to clear this. But just for good measure, I checked the last time that Jared Goff played against the 49ers. The guy had 57 passing attempts. So, yeah, obviously different defensive coordinator, but it's the same team and it's a lot of same players. I think he will hit the over in this one. Now, next up, I've got Jahmyr Gibbs. As I mentioned before, the 49ers defense is not the best at stopping catches. And if there's one other place where they are below average compared to other teams, it's against receiving backs. It's running backs that are catching the ball out of the backfield. They rank in the bottom 5 in those categories in terms of receptions and receiving yards. Now, the Lions have a stud in that category with Jahmyr Gibbs because the guy came from Alabama. It was his most talked about trait and skill, how good he is in the receiving game, and he has shown it in these first 2 playoff games. He has gotten over 40 receiving yards in these first 2 games for the Lions in the playoffs, but his receiving line for this game is set at a mere 22.5 yards. I think that Gibbs definitely has the advantage, has the skill set, and will see the targets to clear this line. He is one of the most dynamic playmakers on the Lions offense, and I don't see why they wouldn't utilize him. I think that he will see enough targets to clear this receiving yard line. Then after that, we have my final pick of the week, and this is Sam Laporta over 5 receptions. Now, Sam Laporta, a couple weeks ago, he was a bit banged up. He entered the first game of the playoffs with a big knee brace, and he didn't see a ton of action, which was a stark contrast from his regular season, where he set a couple records and was one of the most productive rookie tight ends that the NFL has ever seen. But he came back with full force last week when he recorded 9 catches on 11 targets. The 11 targets was second on the team to the 14 of Amon-Ra St. Brown, but the 9 catches was number 1 on the team. So he just finished with 9 catches, 11 targets. And as I mentioned, the 49ers, one thing that they're not as good at is stopping the catch. Yards after catch, yes, but the catch itself, you can get that against them. And if Sam Laporta is going to be seeing double-digit targets, then I think he is certainly going to be able to get at least 5 catches. So, I quite like that line as well, and I think he'll hit the over. So, those are the 9 picks. I came up with 9 picks. They're all overs. If you want to hear them one more time, I've got Patrick Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns, Travis Kelce over 6 receptions, Harrison Butker over 6.5 kicking points, Brock Purdy over 30.5 passing attempts, Christian McCaffrey over 0.5 rushing yards, George Kittle over 21.5 receiving yards in his first 2 catches, Jared Goff over 36 pass attempts in his, Jahmyr Gibbs over 22.5 receiving yards, and Sam Laporta over 5 receptions. Now, you can take these props, you can mix and match them however you'd like. I'll probably run 1-6 play. Maybe I'll do a 5 and a 4 actually. I haven't made anything yet because Prizepicks' Flex Friday system is down for some reason, and they haven't been able to fix it yet, so I don't have anything that you can tail, but I'll just post all of these one more time so that you can read them and possibly make a bet if you'd like. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoy content like this, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. I'll be making more videos next week after this weekend, and it will probably be a little bit of a shift in content going forward. I'll have to stop making as much NFL game-based content because the NFL games will sadly be going away after the Super Bowl. So a couple of things that I still need to do. I never recap my fantasy football season, so I'll make a video on that, just talking about the season as a whole and the playoffs and everything that happened. That'll probably be a long vid. Then I got this request to do a series on how football works. It was an international watcher, which I'm very surprised there are any of, and they're just asking for like an explanation on how to play American football and how the NFL works. So I could do a couple videos and turn it into a series on that. There's also the NBA. I think I will lean more heavily into NBA content going forward. The NBA All-Stars were just announced, so I could talk about that. I do think there's a snub, at least one snub, in that roster that was announced. So, yeah, plenty of directions I could head in, and I'll figure it out. But this channel will see very different things once the football season is over, so I'm also kind of excited to see what happens.